Hey y'all, Michelle Raza here with the Finding Yourself Book Club, and today we're going to be talking about Lindsay Gibson's Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. I've been going back through the stories that we had to skip when we were summarizing the last go-around, so very excited to be here with you today. We're going to be covering Chapter 8, How to Avoid Getting Hooked by an Emotionally Immature Parent. If you haven't had a chance, please do check out our website. We're at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. There you can fill out a contact form and we'll be in touch. If you'd like, you can also download and fill out the life balance questionnaire. Even if you don't end up contacting us, you can download that and fill it out for yourself. It'll help you figure out which areas of your life are maybe a little off balance. There is a contact us section on the form if you'd prefer, on our site. And if you'd prefer, you can even hit the shop button and buy a free consult. Look forward to hearing from you soon. Okay, so Lindsay Gibson's How to Avoid Getting Hooked by an Emotionally Immature Parent. This story is under the section, The Fantasy That a Parent Will Change, Annie's story. Annie's mother, Betty, a woman with strong religious convictions, had always been emotionally insensitive, and her childhood treatment of Annie sometimes verged on physical and emotional abuse. Although Annie had lived with this treatment for a long time, she reached the breaking point when Betty made a derogatory comment about Annie in front of her colleagues at Annie's award ceremony at work. Annie's feelings were deeply hurt, and she was embarrassed in front of her friends. The insult was so blatant that Annie was sure her mother couldn't deny the wildly inappropriate nature and timing of her comment, as she usually did. But Betty wouldn't take responsibility, coldly denying that what she'd done was problematic. Over the next few days, Annie kept trying to get Betty to understand how hurt she was. She finally wrote a letter to her mother, telling her how she felt and asking her to sit down with her and talk it out. Annie put a great deal of thought into the letter, which was extremely emotionally articulate, in hopes that Betty would see and regret that her behavior had been so chronically insensitive over the years. But Betty didn't offer any response. Emptiness hung between them, along with Annie's impression that her mother couldn't care less. "I want to say to her, 'I'm your daughter,'" Annie cried. "Murderers kill people and their moms still love them. We're family. She's my mom. How can she just let that go?" This wasn't the first time Annie had tried to reach Betty emotionally. After starting therapy, Annie tried to express herself and work things out in a healthy way whenever her parents were mean or disrespectful toward her. Although Betty routinely dismissed Annie's outreach, she'd always remained in contact so she could see Annie's 3 little boys. But this time, it was different. "What I can't get over is that there's nothing coming back, not even anger," Annie said. "All I want is some level of response that shows this matters, even if it just made her angry." In addition to being wounded, Annie was confused. Although Betty refused to respond, Annie knew her mother was sociable and capable of showing kindness and generosity toward other people. Annie understood that those relationships were more superficial, but this knowledge didn't help her emotionally. "You'd think my mom would have some natural desire to make things better between us, some kind of acknowledgement, or maybe even something through Dad." Annie's sorrow and incomprehension showed on her face. Annie was grieving over not having an emotionally supportive mother, and working through that would take time. Oops. But she was also aware that her appeals were making things worse, and it was important to address that too. Annie was confused. She was doing everything she knew to repair the relationship, communicating clearly, making respectful requests, and being emotionally honest. She wondered how they could work anything out without talking about it. "Annie," I said, You're doing all the right things in trying to make a connection with your mom. You're looking for emotional intimacy with her, which makes perfect sense, but I don't think she can tolerate it. While you think you're just trying to relate, your mom probably sees it as a major threat to her equilibrium. After all, she's been living like this for years. Your openness and honesty are more than she can handle. Think of it as though your mom has snake phobia. You keep plopping a big, fat, writhing snake right in her lap. She can't stand it, no matter how meaningful it might be to you. Emotional closeness demanded a level of emotional maturity her mother simply didn't have. But her mother's silence made Annie feel like an emotional hostage. She couldn't rest until her mother was happy with her. I told Annie that the only way Betty was going to come around was if Annie stopped talking about her misbehavior and how hurtful it was. Annie needed to find a way forward that didn't involve her mother's participation. That's the only thing that works with parents who are terrified of emotional intimacy. I explained that she could have a relationship with her mother, but it wouldn't be the kind of relationship she yearned for. Her best option was to manage their interactions deliberately rather than seeking emotional intimacy. Annie was open to my suggestions, but still felt confused. She could remember Betty's anguished visits with her own mother, who was also rejecting when Annie was a child. Betty felt so unloved by her own mother that after these visits, she was left sobbing with no one to comfort her but Annie. How could she now be doing this to her own daughter? Annie asked. You think she'd hate to do that to her own child after she suffered so much. It was a good point, but Betty was just passing her trauma down the line, as people tend to do when they repress their childhood pain. Annie was so intent on winning her mother's approval that she'd stopped evaluating the relationship. She never asked herself whether Betty was the type of person she enjoyed being around. So definitely can relate here. Wondering, I mean, if you guys are watching this, maybe you can relate as well. It is very depressing, but the more you try, the more it's going to backfire, and that's why she recommends the detached approach. Okay, here's Annie's story continued. And if if this is the first you're watching about this, so this is chapter 8 of Lindsay Gibson's Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. So go back and watch our summary on that one, and then this story will make more sense. Annie's story continued. After months of enduring her mother Betty's stubborn, silent treatment, Annie tried the maturity awareness approach. She invited her parents to join her at one of the kids' soccer games. This was about as long as Annie thought she could stay objective and in control emotionally. Her desired outcome was a visit with no drama, simply reestablishing contact with her parents. Instead of trying to engage Betty in an open-hearted way, Annie stayed in a neutral, observing mode, interacting pleasantly, but not expecting any warmth from her mother. Her parents came late, as usual, and Annie greeted them nicely, saying, "Hey, I'm glad you're here." Annie gave Betty a little hug and offered her a snack. Betty looked upset and emotional, again making herself the center of their interaction. But as Annie reported, I didn't acknowledge it or feed it. Annie was able to let go of her attempts to establish emotional intimacy with Betty because she now understood that Betty's emotion was probably about herself and didn't reflect a desire to engage with Annie. Indeed, Betty hardly spoke to Annie during the game. As they were leaving the game, Betty choked up but still didn't talk to Annie. Annie was mentally prepared, and rather than feeling irritated, she simply observed how Betty avoided genuine communication and instead acted like she was the injured party. Afterward, Annie summed up her experience with her mother by saying, "I'm finally figuring out I'm finally figuring out that this is who my mother is. This is her personality. It's not about me. I'm glad I didn't get sucked into how she's the one who's been hurt. I'm proud that I'm able to separate her behavior from my sense of worth. On Betty's birthday, Annie called and left a couple of messages, but she didn't invite her mother over. Annie felt good about doing as much as was emotionally possible for her to do. She didn't make it her problem that Betty didn't call back. When Annie finally reached out to Betty, sorry, I've been reading too long today. When Annie finally reached Betty on the phone a few days later, her mother answered tersely in a cold, reserved tone. Annie played it straight and said, "I'm surprised I didn't hear from you. Did you get my messages?" When Betty answered coolly in the affirmative, not thanking her and not showing any warmth, Annie decided to end the conversation and said, "We'll have to catch up sometime, Mom. Why don't you call me? We'll schedule a get-together." After that conversation, Annie felt more emotionally free. She was no longer obsessed with her mother's rejection. She'd managed to relate to Betty as a fellow adult instead of playing out the old role self of an open-hearted little girl who hoped to one day win her disapproving mother's love. In our next sessions, she said, "I no longer feel that I've done anything wrong. It's sad that this important relationship, which I've always struggled with, won't have a good resolution. But the fact that my mother doesn't respond doesn't put a judgment on me. It's just another indication that she can't handle a close relationship with me. Even if my warmth repels her that badly, I can't switch it off. I don't want to switch my warmth off." So I think this story really does speak to me. It's very painful, right? Because it feels like Betsy is the way that Betsy can't ask for what she needs. Betsy can't say like, "I need more love," or "I need more attention," or "I need to feel like I'm the center of the attention." She can't ask for any of that. The way that she asks for it is by making herself the center of the attention, by being the one to throw the pity party, by being the one to act hurt and injured, right? And expecting everyone in the world to come and console her. And it really will throw her for a loop when all of a sudden Annie is no longer the lapdog, right? Looking for the treat every so often of Betsy giving her some form of anything. It's sad. It is really sad. All of these stories are just so sad, but I know you probably know someone in your life who acts this way. And I'm not sure if I've shared with you all the story about the two wolves. It's a Native American folktale. But a grandpa talks to his grandson, and he says, each person has two wolves inside of them. One that is full of love and compassion, happiness, nurturance, and the other one that is full of evil things, that is angry, has hatred for his brother, etc., etc. And the grandson says, "Well, Grandpa, I mean, how do we make sure that the right wolf wins?" And he says, "The one that wins is the one that you feed." And so when somebody around you has nothing but negative emotions and chooses to express themselves in a negative way and can't ask for things in a nice way, and you've tried the nice way, right? Because Annie tried the nice way and didn't get any response. The only solution then is to stop feeding that negativity. So when her mom, was petulant on the phone, she just ended the conversation. Wasn't mean back. She didn't feed it by being mean back or by acting wounded or telling her mom, trying to use the emotionally mature way of saying like, "This is how you hurt me," etc., etc. She just ended the conversation. Just not going to tolerate it. You don't have to tolerate the negativity. So a lot of interesting lessons here. I hope you guys check out the summary video on chapter 8. Pick up your own copy of the book. And if you'd like, give us a call. You can check our number on the website. We're at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. I didn't get to cover all of the stories in chapter 8. I actually thought chapter 8 didn't have that many stories, but it's because Annie's story was so many pages. So I'll go ahead and cover that in the next video. Hope you guys have a great one. Look forward to talking with you soon. Take care.